Hello and welcome everyone to this very important video on Tesla stock and why suddenly the sentiment around the stock is skyrocketing. I believe 480, the all-time highs are incoming very soon the more I look at this. And let me explain what I mean with the sentiment is suddenly skyrocketing. So you know this guy, you know Dan Ives, the famous guy, and he is probably the most out there or most well-known famous Tesla analyst from a conventional bank, and he just increased his price target on May 23rd, that was just a few days ago, from 350 to 500. Now that's a huge increase and very interesting, 350 to 500. Why is Dan saying that? Well, before we get there, we also see Piper Sandler, very important bank. So he's Canaccord. Piper Sandler is a competitor. 60 to 400, much smaller increase, but they said this one day before Dan Ives. Hey, creating these videos is a lot of work. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Now let's get back to the video. So what we see here is another bank very recently increasing the price targets. And we have to understand these banks, they have a lot of hedge funds, institutional funds as clients. They are listening to them because a lot of them are NPCs. They're not thinking much. They're just following these analysts. And we see that the sentiment is clearly shifting in favor of Tesla after we had the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt of the brand damage of what Elon is potentially doing to damage Tesla because of his political involvement. I believe that is complete BS. But then Ives jumped on that train, lost a lot of credibility with the informed Tesla investors. But now he's back. One reason for that was what we are seeing now with this tweet that actually happened one day after these two said that. But the sentiment was already clear that Elon is coming back to Tesla with full force. Look what he's saying here, back to spending 24/7 at work and sleeping in conference server factory rooms. Well, Elon, you're full of drama, of course, but Elon is a great communicator. A little propaganda goes a long way. And I appreciate what Elon is doing. I know he works hard. I think he's overdoing this stuff a little bit, but people like it. So what he's saying is I must be super focused on XAI and Tesla, plus Starship launch next week. That was, I think, this week, their Starship launch, as we have critical technologies rolling out. As evidenced by the X uptime issues this week. As you probably know, X had big problems, right? We were posting on X and suddenly this whole thing didn't work. So there was a server issue with X. And Elon says, as we have seen, major operational improvements need to be made. The fallover redundancy should have worked, but it did not. By the way, whenever Elon tweets something like that, you have to consider if you are an important person, same with Trump, but also with Elon. Elon is not just thinking about you and me. He's not just thinking about investors reading this or consumers reading this. This is also his means of communication to his own people, to his own workforce. So he is smacking them a little bit here and saying, dudes, you messed up. Now I have to sleep in the server room because you guys failed. So that is his way of saying, dudes, what the hell happened here? Major operational improvements, including firing a bunch of people, need to be made. The fallover redundancy should have worked. Hello, it should have worked, but it did not. So we always have to understand that Elon is also pointing fingers here a little bit and telling people, okay, I see that you messed up. I'm coming back. I remember when that happened to SpaceX, there was this one guy in charge of the engine program, and that completely failed. I think the what's the name? The Falcon engine. The rocket engine completely failed, and then Elon went back on the program, and then it worked. It's something I also experienced in my time leading a company. You think you don't have to pay attention, and you think you can delegate. Biggest mistake in the world. And I wish there would be a world where you can just delegate. It never really works. You need always the CEO or founder, whatever, like the dude in charge, to zero in on every single area in the company to see if there's a bottleneck and a problem. Because if there's a bottleneck or a problem, it's very likely not going to be solved if you're not getting involved personally. That is the power of Elon, that he has this founder mode. still on, even though these are very big companies. And that founder mode is what made SpaceX, Tesla, of course, but also X and now XAI so successful. And I don't want to get lost into the theory of founder mode, but I experienced it myself. I tell you, founder mode is very different from CEO mode. Most CEOs went to Harvard Business School or something. They're like hired guns. They don't give a shit about anything. They're sitting there. They don't understand what's going on in their company. And they're just administrators who apply some textbook stuff. That's why you can often fire CEOs and nothing bad happens. They just don't move the needle. They're not important. They're just politicians, basically. But a founder mode CEO actually goes into the company, knows what the objectives are, sets these objectives, and then goes into the company and zeroes in like a bloodhound. Why are we off track? Why are we not on time? And a real founder drills down horizontally and vertically, the T strategy. Horizontally, where is the actual problem? Is it the rocket engines? Is it the hull? Is it deals? Is it funding? Is it HR? Is it reputation? Is it chips? Is it software? What holds the rocket back? Or what holds robotaxi back? Robotaxi is a very complicated endeavor for Tesla. And a real founder comes back in and says, what is holding us up? Do I have to call a regulator in Austin to unlock the robotaxi problem? Do we still see certain edge case problems where our remote operators cannot, are too late of, intercepting that problem? Do we have other problems, right? Do we have a Model Y deployment problem? Do we have a software problem? Do we have a neural net problem? Do we need more compute? Do we need more lobbying? What do we need? And that's why only the founder and CEO can do these things, because every other person in the company has a specific job. Like the neural net guy at Tesla is not going to call a legislator or an administrator at Austin City to call them to remove some obstacle for getting approved, because it's not his job. But you don't know what the bottleneck is. So the only person who sees all the bottlenecks and can zero in into everything is the founder. That is why founder mode is so important. And the reason normal CEOs don't do that, they don't have the capacity, they don't have the motivation, and they don't have the skill to do it. Because what that founder needs to do is they need to be good at everything. What they need to be good, not at everything. They need to be good at any single thing that becomes the bottleneck. If the regulator is the problem, the founder needs to be very good in politics. They need to understand who's the boss of this guy, who elects this guy, how do I exert pressure of getting my way with these regulators? If it's a technical problem, the founder has to understand, well, if that's the AI problem, do we need better AI people on the team? Is it an algorithmic problem? Is it a funding problem? Is it a hardware problem? Is it a data problem? Who knows? And whatever the problem is, they need to understand what the problem is, zero in and solve it. So that is why it's so bullish that Elon is back, because whatever is happening at Tesla or SpaceX or X or XAI, you see it with the servers too, at X, whatever it is, you need Elon to zero in and be the authority to solve the problem. And that is exactly happening now. And that's incredibly bullish, because we will need it, especially for robotaxi, because robotaxi is a highly complex operation, because it spans across all areas: regulatory, marketing and PR, neural nets, remote operators, operational rollout, cleaning, charging, manufacturing. Everything's involved in robotaxi, and everything can go wrong. And so you need someone really on it to watch that. So it's incredibly bullish that we know Elon is full on in the robotaxi launch. And in a recent interview that was also very bullish, Elon explained to CNBC, that was a couple of days ago, yes, we are on track for June, and now it's 1 week to June. So now it's pretty safe to say this is going to happen. He reaffirms we'll start with 10 cars, but he also then mentioned, well, after the first week, if it goes well, we can double it and then double it again, which is exactly, I'm going to get to this in a second, very important hints for us who are seeking alpha, the alpha chasers in Tesla. So we understand what trajectory are we actually on in terms of speed and ramp. I will get to it in a second. He also said, in his opinion, they will reach 1,000 robotaxis in a few months and then expand to other cities. Now, for anyone who's not that interested or is not seeking or striving for alpha, that's like, whatever, dude. Who cares if it's 1,000 in August or in July or in December? Well, I care, and here's why. Here is my projection on the robotaxi launch that translates directly into making a lot of money if you're right, or losing a lot of money if you're wrong. So here are 3 columns you see for each month. And these 3 columns represent my 3 scenarios. And the real scenario will be somewhere in between. But we have a slow scenario, and this is about the rollout of robotaxis, which is, a representation of how many robotaxis we have live in each month. And I will explain in a very short second why this is so decisive. But what I'm doing here is, together with you guys at Pioneerlands, we're looking at the whole thing. Go to pioneerlands.net to see the model and everything. But what we are trying to do, and where we are trying to front run the market, we need to understand on what trajectory we are actually on. And we have to do this month by month and week by week. And as you can see, if we end up with 20 in June, that's the slow trajectory. If we end up with 50, we are on the expected or fast trajectory. In July, if we are at 30, we are on the slow one. August, 45, slow. September, 70, slow. But if we hit in July, for example, if we double every week and hit in July 100, well, that's very good. If we hit 200, then we are on the fast trajectory. In August, if we hit 200, we are on the expected trajectory. If we hit 500, we are on the fast one. And if Elon is right, we actually hit 1,000 by September, let's say, we are definitely here between the expected and fast. When we launch in June, he says in a few months we had 1,000. Elon's basically projecting this thing here, right here, right? So we would be in a very good spot if that is true. And why is it important? Well, because here's the big picture. Now, this is a very important slide. And you see here that I'm basically projecting the robotaxi EBITDA, the contribution of profit to Tesla from the robotaxi business by 2026 and 2027 in December. Here are the lines. You remember, yellow was the fast that I just showed. This is a continuation of these things. This is the short term in 2025 by month, but here you have the long term by year. And if the yellow trajectory stands, which we know here, right? If we are getting to 2,000 and end of the year to 3,500 or something, over 3,000, we are on the yellow trajectory. And if we are on the yellow trajectory, it means that already next year in 2026, Tesla will make that much profit with robotaxi. Now, what does it mean? I tell you what it means. The green line, that is the total amount of profit, $12.44 billion in EBITDA that Tesla made in 2024. So in other words, we will nearly double. We will add a EBITDA stream. I'm not even talking about revenue. I'm talking about margin profit. We could be on a trajectory here with a yellow line to make 80% or more in total additional profit as the entire company of Tesla. And you know what that does to the stock price? It goes to 2,000 plus by next year, if that yellow trajectory is the trajectory we're talking about. If it's red, you see it's of course much less, but it's also very, very significant. And you see that in 2027 already, it will add more than 100%. It will more than double the entire profit of the Tesla corporation as a whole in 2027. Now on the yellow one, it's going to triple it. So that's crazy. And here it's going to, more than double it. And here it's going to be crazy. So that is what the analysts don't understand. They didn't do the math and did the projections realistically, what's going to happen here. And that is why we have to be laser focused now on what is actually happening here. And the earlier we can project the trajectory, the better we will be off. Because if we can predict this here accurately and are not wrong, the share price will go through the roof. And of course, if something goes wrong and we're on the blue trajectory, we also see that robotaxi will not, in fact, add too much to the profit, and then the share price will go nowhere. So that is why it's so decisive to bet on the right trajectory here, and ideally not bet, but derive it from these numbers. And no one is doing this other than the pioneers. In Pioneerland, we are ahead of everyone in the market with that, and that is where the money comes from. So that is why I believe people haven't quantified it like that, and they don't know all the details, but they sense it in their little tummies, the analysts, and that's why they are ramping up slowly their price targets. Of course, they're always behind, right? Then ICE has to increase to 1,000, then to 2,000. He was always lagging behind this stuff, and we want to make sure we are not lagging behind, but we are front running the whole situation. I hope that was helpful. I will have a video out this week on options. I will provide you with a cool options simulator that I developed. Very simple in a way, but I think very helpful for a lot of you guys. So you can put in different option types, Tesla options, and see how they develop. You know, under what circumstances you will lose all your money, under what circumstances you will double or triple or quadruple it. And so you have a better situation and better simulator for getting a feel for the different option types that you can type in and then see what happens. Because if we are right about this whole thing here, and if we are able to make the projections correctly, options are a very good tool to really leverage that alpha, but you have to be cautious. So I hope that was interesting. Hope to see you for the next video. Until then.